So now if I was going to graph what a power statement and what we were hoping to do, a candidate to do with this power statement, this is how we would graph it. This was shared to us by a wonderful person in the professional workshop up in Beaverton. And Larry shared this with me. So if you think of if we have a couple axes here, if we were going to graph this is our beginning of our graph. And this would be, at this point down here, would be our beginning stage of our power statement. So this would be the identification of a skill. So the skill, we start down here. I am analytical. So it starts down here. What we're hoping to do is we're hoping people will build to an apex. We'll build to a climax. We'll build that this result, remember, because if we go back to this section here, where we think about the power statement, we know that the result is the most important part for the manager. So if I now come back to my graph, and I know that that result is where I want to be. This is what the impact I want to have. It's impactful. It's meaningful. This is the kind of the trajectory we want people to go on with their power statements. It needs to be building step by step by step all the way to this point up here. So, but often that's not what happens with our candidates. Two things usually happen. Often they're going along just fine, and they're giving an example, and then they just stop. They literally just stop. They don't give a result. It just ends. The story ends in the body. There's no conclusion. There's no result. And it just falls apart. It's not very impactful. The second thing that often happens with candidates is they're going along and they're telling the story, or they're telling their example, and then they tend to minimize, or they tend to minimize what they've done. Oh, it really wasn't that big of a deal. It was just part of a team. Everybody else did it. So they minimize it. In either of these two cases, what it ends up doing is the story just falls flat. It may not be horrible, it may not be bad, but it isn't impactful. And we want to have impactful power statements for our candidates. So we want to help you, as a missionary, think about how you can help them build towards here, this impact. That's the trajectory we want you to go on. That's what we want these power statements to go to. Remember, three components of a power statement: a skill, an example, and a result. And it needs to be impactful, not just, Talk to you later.